Hey guys, welcome back to another video by Simplilearn. This is a Kotlin full course video in which we will be learning about all the important concepts and topics that we need to understand in order to grasp the Kotlin programming language. One by one, we will go through each and every topic of this Kotlin full course and learn them with the help of hands-on examples. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. So, we will start by understanding what is Kotlin or introduction to Kotlin. Then we will understand few concepts of Kotlin language by going through Kotlin tutorial for beginners. After that, we will understand concepts like if-else, loops in Kotlin and Kotlin Functions. Then we will understand Kotlin Multi-Platform and Kotlin coroutines. And at last, we will cover Kotlin Jetpack tutorial. So let's go ahead with the first topic, which is what is Kotlin or introduction to Kotlin.
So why Kotlin? Kotlin is one of the fastest growing and widely used programming language. In May 2017, Google announced it as an official language for developing Android applications. After this announcement, the jobs for Kotlin increased in large numbers. Since then, the job openings for Kotlin gets doubled every 3 months as per DICE. It is very easy and friendly language. Also, it is quite easy to maintain and debug this language, which is why it is a good language to start with. Kotlin has a bright future as it is being widely used for Android development. Companies like Google, Netflix, Pinterest are some of the companies using Kotlin. So being a Kotlin developer will boost up your career growth. Now, coming to what is Kotlin? Kotlin is an open source statically typed language designed by JetBrains. It has both the features of object-oriented programming and functional programming. Kotlin is interoperable with Java. That means both the languages can share and use the information, and just like Java compiler, the Kotlin compiler also generates the bytecode which can run on JVM. Also, we can say Kotlin is kind of Java with some added features. Even the Java libraries can also be used in Kotlin project. Although Java is a really cool language, the developers of Kotlin focused more on simplifying the code and increasing the transparency. Now, let's learn some history of this Kotlin language. The development of the Kotlin language was announced in the year 2011. In 2012, the first web demo of Kotlin was released along with the new logo and became an open source. Then in 2014, kotlinlang.org was released along with some features to increase the interoperability with Java. In the year 2015, some new features were added like the companion objects, multiple constructor, etc. After a quite long development process, Kotlin 1.0 version was released in February 2016. It was developed by JetBrains in Russia. The developers of JetBrains were fed up with the repetitive code, so they wanted a much modern language. But the problem was most of their code was already written in Java, and switching to some other language would create a bigger headache for them. So the team decided to create a language which is compatible with Java and with all the features they wanted. So then they created the Kotlin language. In the year 2017, Google announced the first class support for Kotlin on Android. Later, Kotlin 1.2 was released with features like sharing code between JVM and JavaScript. After that, various versions were released like Kotlin 1.3 in 2018, Kotlin 1.4 in 2020, Kotlin 1.5 in 2021, etc. Now, moving on to features of Kotlin language. The first feature is Kotlin language can be used on multiple platforms, which reduces the time that is spent on writing and maintaining the code on different platforms. Kotlin doesn't depend on virtual machine on the target platform. Next is Kotlin has some modern features like Null Safety, which is a feature to reduce the problems associated with the null references. Then the Lambda function, which is an anonymous function, and the smart casts, which are used to track conditions inside the if expression. Next is, in Kotlin language there are many extensions which allows us to add the functionality without inheriting from the class or any decorative pattern. This feature makes the code easy to maintain and read. Now coming to another feature of Kotlin, which is, in Kotlin, functions can be passed as parameters to the function. That means function act as a variable, and just like the variable, it can also be passed. It is also known as higher order function. Its functionality is to do two things. First, to take the functions as parameters, and second, to return a function. Next feature is Kotlin is compatible with Java. It is fully interoperable with Java, and you can convert the Java file to the Kotlin file with just a script. Also, it works on JVM, and Java libraries work fine on Kotlin. Next is, in Kotlin there is a data class. A data class is that class which doesn't perform any operations and only contains state. The advantage of this class is that it provides self-generated code and avoids the implementation of methods within the class. Now, coming to uses of Kotlin. Kotlin is used in web development. It is compatible with Java and also much easier to work with. Also, Kotlin works fine with Spring and some other frameworks, which makes it an easy replacement of Java when it comes to web development. Next is, Kotlin is used in data science as well. Because of its features like null safety, statically typed, maintainable code, and also being a language which runs on JVM, makes Kotlin a good choice for working with the data. Next is, it is used for Android development. After Google has announced Kotlin as the first class language, the users' interest in Kotlin language elevated to a great extent, which resulted in creating a large community of Android developers going for Kotlin. This language allows the developers to write more expressive and concise code, and its interoperability with Java is one of the main attractions to choose this language. With Google's statement, not only the Android developers but also the app development companies are opting the Kotlin language. Similar to these uses, there are many more uses to the Kotlin language. But now let's move on to its applications. So we'll start with Google. Google widely uses the Kotlin language. Not only they have declared it as the first class programming, but they also use it in their production code. Google also implemented Kotlin in more than 60 applications, such as Google Home, Google Maps, Google Drive, Google Pay, Google Sheets, etc. Similarly, Airbnb, which is an American company that operates online marketplace for lodging and homestays to vacation rentals, also uses Kotlin language for their Android frameworks MVRX for a seamless experience. Other companies like Zomato, which is India's largest food delivery company, also uses Kotlin for the Android app, which has helped them to reduce the lines of code and made the code a lot more concise. Next is Netflix. Netflix is world's leading streaming service, also use the Kotlin language to rebuild their UI player for the Android app of Netflix. Next is Uber. The American mobility company Uber that provides services like food delivery, ride hailing, package delivery, couriers, etc. uses Kotlin language because of its popularity for Android development and its interoperability with Java. So these were some popular companies that uses the Kotlin language. Similar to these companies, there are many more companies like Pinterest, Tinder, Slack, etc. that uses this language. Now Let's have a look at what we have learned so far. In this video, we spoke about why Kotlin language, what exactly Kotlin is, then history of Kotlin language and some of the features and uses of Kotlin language. And at last, we have covered the companies that uses Kotlin language.
Choose from over 300 in-demand skills and get access to 1,000 plus hours of video content for free. Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
Kotlin is a general-purpose, statically typed programming language developed and released by JetBrains in 2016. In 2011, JetBrains revealed the Kotlin project, which is a new language for JVM. And later, in February 2016, its first version, Kotlin 1.0, was released. This language is concise and more expressive than Java. It is fully interoperable with Java, and it is also said that Kotlin language is made by extracting all the good parts of different programming languages like Scala, JavaScript, Java, C#, etc. Google also announced Kotlin as the first class language for Android development. So it is now an official language for the development of Android and is being opted by many organizations across the globe. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is variables in Kotlin. There are two types of variables in Kotlin, which are var and val. First, var. The var variables are mutable, which means their value can be reassigned. Then there is val. The val variables are immutable, which means their value cannot be reassigned or changed or modified. As you can see in the example, var is the type of the variable name and the value Raj is assigned to it. After that, the value is reassigned as Sid. So after printing, it will display Sid because var is mutable type and its value can be reassigned. On the other hand, val is the variable whose value cannot be reassigned, which means it is immutable. As we can see in the example, on printing the value of the name variable, it is showing an error because we tried to change or reassign the value from Raj to Sid. And because it is a val type variable, the value is not going to change. Kotlin is smart enough to understand which is string and which is an integer. So it is not necessary to specify the type. Like in this example, name is the string and roll number is the integer. But we haven't specified their type, and still there is no error. However, it is possible to specify the type if you want. Now, coming to next topic, which is string templates. A string can be defined as a collection of characters enclosed in double quotes. The string templates allows us to include the expressions, variable references inside the string. The references in a string start with a $sign. To print the string, we need to add the $sign before the string name. We can easily add the variables in the string instead of concatenating them. For example, here name1 and name2 are two strings and we can include them together within the same sentence while printing like both $sign name1 and $sign name2 are best friends. It will display the value of string within the sentence. We can also print the expression like we did while printing the second sentence, dot to uppercase. Dot to uppercase is an expression, and in Kotlin expressions start with a $sign and are enclosed in the curly brackets, as we can see. So as we have understood about the string templates, let's move on to if, else and when statements. If is used with a condition. If that condition is true, then the block of code executes. And if the condition is not true or false, then the else block executes. Now in Kotlin language, the if-else statements can also be used as expressions. That means they can return a value. While using if-else as an expression, it is mandatory to use the else branch. Here in the example, we can see if A is greater than B is the expression and the value of that expression is assigned to the variable named great. Now, whichsoever is greater among them, that will be assigned to it and is then printed. Now, coming to when statements. When statements in Kotlin is similar to switch statement in Java. When statement is used to select one code block from the multiple code blocks based on a conditional expression. The code block which satisfies the condition is executed. For example, as you can see, the value 4 is assigned to the variable tab. Now, whichsoever value matches with the value of tab, that particular code block will execute. In this case, there are no code blocks but single line branches. The branch value that matches with the value of tab, that particular branch will execute. Like wrap will execute, which is then stored in the order variable, which is then printed. Now, let's move on to arrays in Kotlin. Arrays are generally used to store multiple values in contiguous memory location in a single variable. In Kotlin language, to create an array, you have to use the address of function and then write the elements inside the bracket. For example, here name is the array name and Sid, Robbie, Max, John are the elements of the array. In order to print the elements of the array, you can use loops. For example, here we are using for loop. In this for loop, n is the variable, names is the array name, and one by one it will print every element of the array. Now, as we have understood about arrays, now let's understand about loops. Loops are used to iterate through the different parts of program. For example, arrays, ranges several times. It is a set of instructions which keeps on repeating until a certain condition is met. It is generally used while working with arrays. In Kotlin language, the for loop is a bit different to that in Java. In this for loop, we use a variable in operator and the array name to display the elements of the array. For example, as you can see in the example, there is an array with elements 4, 2, 5, 12, 7, and using the for loop, we are displaying the elements of the array inside the for loop. Here n is the variable, in is the operator, and numbers is the array name. Loops are also used to iterate through the ranges, which we will discuss later. Now, let's understand while loop and do while loop. Both these loops are similar to the loops in Java. The function of the while loop is it checks the condition and executes through the block of code as long as the specified condition is true. And the do while loop executes the do block once before checking if the condition is true, which means the loop will execute at least once even if the condition is not true. So, as we have understood about loops in Kotlin, so now let's move on to our next topic, which is null safety. So null safety is a feature in Kotlin language that solves the problem of null pointer exception. If you have worked on other languages including Java, then you must have an idea of null pointer exception. In Kotlin language, you can easily create null type variable. To create a null type variable or string which can hold a null value, we can simply define them by putting the question mark at the end. As we can see in the example, name is the variable name and string is the type, and after string there is a question mark, which means that this variable is of null type. By default, all the variables are not null in Kotlin, but you can create one by putting a question mark with them. Now, moving on to the next topic, which is ranges. Now, ranges can be defined as an interval from start to end. Expressions are created with double dot operator and an in operator. Here in the example, 0 is the starting point and 7 is the ending point. In between them, there is operator, double dot operator, which means that the loop will iterate from 0 to 7. Similarly, we can also print the range with gaps like in the example, I in 0 to 10. Step 2 means that it will print from 0 to 10 with a gap of 2 digits like 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Range can also be used in decrement manner. For example, I in 7 down to 2 means the loop will iterate from 7 to 2 in a decreasing order. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is Kotlin functions. Functions are also known as methods. They are the block of code which runs whenever it is invoked. In Kotlin language, functions are defined with the fun keyword. After that, the name of the function and parentheses are written. If the parentheses are empty, it means function doesn't accept any arguments. In function with parameters, the parameters are specified inside the parentheses. The type of parameter is specified after the name of the parameter. As we can see in the example, fun is the name of the function, num1, num2 are the parameters name, int is the type of the parameters, then after that the colon, there is another int data type, which is the return type. That means it is the data type of the value which is returned. So these were some important topics of Kotlin language. Now let's go to the code editor and do some practical implementations. So this is our IntelliJ idea. Here we will do some examples of Kotlin language. So let's go ahead. First of all, we'll create the Kotlin file. So let's name it as example1. So first we'll do an example of string template in which we'll have a look that how to create those strings and how can we use some expressions with them. So let's start. So fun is the keyword for function. Now main function. Now inside this main function we'll write val. This is immutable as we know. Code is the name of the variable. Now let's say code is cipher. In Kotlin language you don't need to put the semicolon in the end as it is not necessary. You can do it but it is not necessary to do that. Alright, now after that let's say we want to print this. We'll write the code is $code. So this is how we can print this string, and let's see that if it works or not. First of all we'll have to save it. So we'll do save all, and now we'll go to run. Now here we will on run and select example1. Alright, as you can see the code is cipher. It is getting printed. Now let's say we want to use some expression with it. We'll write the code is, let's say we want to write the code in capital letters. We'll write the code is $, and then the curly brackets, and inside the curly brackets we'll write code dot uppercase. Yes, uppercase, now with brackets. Now after that, if you want to put the semicolon, it is your choice, otherwise it is not required. So now let's save it again. Save all, and now let's try to run it. As you can see, the code is cipher. The first one, the code is in capital letters cipher. So this is how we can do it, and we can also merge the strings. We don't need to concatenate them, so we can do like this. The code is this, and right. Now let's try to run it again. So here what we are doing is we are merging the uppercase and lowercase. Here we can see the code is cipher and cipher. So this is how we can concatenate both the strings easily. So this is one of the example of string template. Now let's do another example of if-else statements as expressions. Let's go ahead. Right, now we'll create main class fun main, and inside this main function, first of all we'll create two variables, that is marks1 of val type, and let's assign it value 87. Then another variable marks2, and we'll assign it as, let's say, 82. Here we are using if-else as expressions. So what we'll do is we'll make a variable result and we'll store the value of if or else in that particular result, and then we'll display that particular variable, and let's say that variable is result. Here we will use if else as expressions. So val result equals if marks1 is greater than marks2, then in the bracket write marks1 equals, this is for the printing purpose, $sign marks1 is the greater among both. Now let's write is greater than marks2. Variable marks2. Alright, now similarly we'll do for else as well. We'll write else now similarly we'll write marks2 equals marks2 variable is greater than marks1. Alright, so after that we'll print the variable result, because the result is getting stored in this variable result. So whichever is greater will get stored over here, and then we will print this variable, print ln, and we'll write result. Alright, now it's done, and I think we have to run this one. Save it and let's try to run example 2. Hope it works. As we can see, marks1 87 is greater than marks2 82. As marks1 is 87 and marks2 is 82, so marks1 is greater, so that is why if block is getting printed. Now let's do an example of when statement. Let's create a new file. go to new, this Kotlin file. Now let's name it example 3. Alright, so this is example 3. Now let's start with the when example. Function main. Inside this, we'll create a variable named coupon. So let's say the variable is var coupon, and let's assign it a value 5. Alright, now the when statement works as switch statements. It is used to select one code block or one code branch out of many code blocks or code branches based on the conditional expression. Whichsoever code branch matches with the condition, that particular code branch will execute. Alright, so let's start with it. We'll use when keyword, and let's say coupon is the name of the variable, and the value of coupon is 5, as we can see, as we have already declared that. Now inside when, the first branch would be, so this is how you can create a first branch, and if there are multiple lines, then you have to use the brackets. Alright, so here we will print here is your coffee. Alright, so first message is this. The second message would be like forgot to enter tea. Yeah, so the second message, let's say here is your tea, we will write so here is your tea. So in the third branch we'll write here is your green tea. The fourth branch we'll write here is your juice. And in the fifth line or the fifth branch we will write here is your water. So this is how we can create this. We can also create a default value. For that we have to use the else statement. We'll write else, write invalid input. Alright, so this is how we are doing it. And so the value of coupon is 5, and whichsoever values among these, like 1 2 3 4 5, 5 obviously will match it, that particular statement or line will be printed. So let's save this one and let's try to run it. So there's an error, as you can see. So for that we have to use the arrow operator instead of these brackets. So let's do that. So now if any value other than these 5 values is there in this variable, then this default message will be printed, that is invalid input. So now let's save it again and now run it. As you can see, here is your water, as the value was 5. Let's say the value is 6. It must show the invalid input, as there are only 5 values. So now let's try to run this and let's check if it is working fine or not. As you can see, invalid input, as we have entered 6 over here, which is not in this 1 2 3 4 5, so that is why it is printing invalid input. So now let's do an example of array. Let's create a new file, Kotlin file. Now let's name it example4. Alright, now the main function. Right, now inside this function, first of all we will create an array. So how we will do that? Well, let's say the name of the function is arr1 equals array of, as we have discussed already, array of now the number of elements like 2 4 6 8 12. So these are the elements of array 1. Now similarly we will create an array 2, right? Array of now the elements 1 3 5 7 9 11. Alright, now here we will use a set function. So if we want to set a particular element at a particular position, then we'll use set, and if we want to display a particular element of the array, then we'll use get. So first of all we'll understand set. So array1 dot set. So first here we will write the position. Let's say 1 is the position, and at 1 position we want to set 5 as an element. So this is the syntax for it. And let's say for array2 dot set. Now here we want to set at 0th position, and we want to set 2 element. So first is the position and second is the element that we want to set at that position. Alright, now we'll see the get function. So get is used to display the particular element of an array. So let's say array1 dot get. Let's say I want to print the 5th element, that is 14th in array1 case. So I'll do this. Similarly for array2, and in array2 case I want to print this 4th element, that is 9. Now after that we'll use println so that the result come out vertically. Alright, now if we want to print each and every element of an array, so this is how we can do it. For element in arr1, here element is the variable, array1 is the name of the array, and one by one it will print all the elements. So here we will write element. Yeah, it's done. Let's save it now. And now let's run it. As we can see, 14 and 9. So as we know, here we have set 5 at 1th position, at first position. So 0 1. So at place of 4 there is 5 now, and here at 0th position, that is at 1 position, there is 2. So first of all, here we have printed this get 5. So at array 1 position, at 5th position, 0 1 2 3 4 5, there is 14, so that is why it is printing 14. In array 2 at 4th position there is 9, so here it is printing 9. After that, here we are printing all the elements of the array. So as we can see, at the first position we have set 5 instead of 4. Here we are doing that, so that is why here we can see 2 5 not 4, then 6 8 12 14. Similarly, as you can see, at 0th position in array 2, that is here, we have set 2. So we can see instead of 1 there is 2 3 5 7 9 and then 11. So this is how we can set some elements at a particular position and print those elements and print the array as well. So now let's do another example. Right, so we'll write function main. Now inside this we will create an array, val arr1. Now in Kotlin you can create an array having the integer elements and character elements or string elements as well in a same array. So I'll show you that. Array of, so first we'll write down the integer elements, let's say 2 4 6, and then there are string elements, let's say 8 and then 10. So this is our array. Within the same array there are integer elements and string elements. Alright, now using for loop we'll try to print this element in array1 dot. Here dot indices means if we want to print the index of each of these elements. Let's say if we just want to print the elements, so we'll not use this, we'll simply print ln, and then we'll do is array1. This is just for printing purpose. Element, then alright, so now let's save it. Let's run it. As you can see, 2 4 6 8 10, it is printing without any error, so we can easily do that in Kotlin. And these are the indexes. For the index, if we want to print the index of these elements, we'll do is dot indices. Now let's save it again and run it. As we can see, array of 1 with 0 index, 0 1 2 3 4. The index is correct, but the elements are not. So I think this, yeah, we forgot to write array of, then the bracket. Now let's save it again. Now let's again try to run this. Array of 1, yeah. Now again let's try to run this. Alright, as you can see, array with index numbers will print 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So not only the integer elements are getting printed, but also the string elements are also getting printed along with the index number. Because of this dot indices, we are also able to print the index of array elements. So these were some examples of Kotlin language. You can try some more examples on it. The more you'll practice, the more you'll get to know about this language. Conditionals in Kotlin. Conditional expression refers to a situation that may happen or exist if a specific condition is met. For example, there's a statement like, we can sit on the front benches if we reached before the given time. Now here the conditional statement is, if we reached before the given time, and the main clause is, we can sit on the front benches. So here, sitting on the front bench, which is a main clause, is dependent on if they reach before the time. So now, there are some conditionals in Kotlin, like if, else, and else if. So let's have a look at that. First is if statement. If is used when a block of code must be executed based on the condition to be true. Second is else statement. Else is used when a block of code must be executed if the same condition is false. Third is else if statement. Else if is used to specify a new condition if the previous condition is false. We will understand them in detail. Now, moving on to different types of if-else expressions. First is if expression, second is if-else expression, third is if-else-if ladder expression, and fourth is nested if expression. Now, let's understand the if expression first. If expression is a conditional statement which checks if a particular condition is satisfied. The condition is specified inside the if brackets and it checks if it met the condition or not. If they met the condition, then the block will execute, otherwise not. As we can see, there's a statement, then there is if condition. If the condition is satisfied, that is, if it is true, then only the if code will execute, otherwise, if it is false, then control will exit. Now, moving on to if-else expression. The if-else expression has two blocks of statements. The if block executes if the condition is true, and if the condition is false, then the else block executes. The if-else is similar to if expression. The only difference is it has one extra block known as else block. A simple example of if-else is a conversation between a father and a son. The father says, if you scored more than 85%, then I will buy you a car. But if you scored between 75 to 85%, then I will buy you a bike. Here, I will buy you a car is the code written inside the if block, and I will buy you a bike is a code written inside the else block. So when the son scores 85%, then his father buy him a car. But if he scores between 75 to 85% range, then he will get the bike. Now, moving on to if-else-if ladder expression. Kotlin if-else-if condition is used when there are multiple conditions to be checked. In this expression, first the if expression is checked. If it's true, then it executes the if block, otherwise it moves to the other else if conditions. If none of the condition turns out to be true, then it executes the last final else expression. To understand it, let's have a look at this example. According to this example, if a student scores marks between 80 and 105, then the cutoff is not cleared, but he or she can sit for the second examination. If the marks scored is between 105 and 130, then the cutoff is cleared. If the marks scored between 130 and 180, then the cutoff is cleared and also there will be no fee. And else, cutoff not cleared. So by this example, we understood that there are multiple conditions and each condition has a specific criteria. If the marks of the student is fit in that criteria, then that specific block gets executed. Now, moving on to the nested if expression. In Kotlin nested if expression, there are if statements inside another if statement. First, the if statement is checked. If it is true, then the nested if condition is checked. If the conditions turns out to be false, then it will move to the else expression. In this example, it checks for true in condition 1, then checks for true in condition 2. If condition 2 evaluates to true, statement 1, that is even number, is executed. Otherwise, statement 2, that is odd number, is executed. Similarly, if condition 1 evaluates to false, then else block executes and the statement's negative number is printed. So as we have understood all of these expressions, so now let's do its practical implementation. So this is our code editor, that is IntelliJ IDEA. So here we will be doing some examples of Kotlin if else. So let's start with the first example of if else expression. So we'll write function main, and inside this function we'll create marks, let's say the marks of the test. So we have named it test marks. Now let's say he scored 78, he or she scored 78. Now we'll use if condition and we'll write the condition that if text marks is, let's say, less than 75, then we will print you didn't qualify the test. So we'll write ln didn't qualified the test. So basically, to qualify a test you have to score more than 75. So in else block we'll write print ln, we'll write you qualified the test. So basically, if you have scored less than 75 marks, you are not qualified, but if you have scored more than 75, then you have qualified the test. Here we have used the basic if else expression. Here the test marks is the variable that we have set, let's say 78, and if we have changed it like less than 75, let's say 70, then it will get printed you didn't qualify the test. But as we have set the value of test marks as 78, so it means you qualified the test will print. It's a simple example. Let's try to run this. So as you can see, you qualified the test is printed. So as we know that the marks is 78, so it is printing you qualified the test. And if we have, let's say, marks is 70, now again let's try to print it. Now it will print you didn't qualify the test. As you can see, it is printing you didn't qualify the test. So now let's have a look at an example of nested if. So now create a new file. Here we have to change the name of this file. Alright, so in this example, again we'll write function main. Inside this function we'll create a variable. Let's say the name of the variable is num, and we'll assign it 50. Now we'll set a condition. If the value of num is, let's say, less than 100, then we'll print number is less than 100. First of all, we'll print that. Now if num is equal to 50, so this is the if condition inside the first if condition. This is the first if condition, this is the if condition inside this if condition, so it's a nested if. Now here we'll print that number equal to 50. Now inside this if condition, again we'll write an if condition saying that if number is, let's say, greater than 40, then we'll print number is greater than 40. Basically we are printing the condition. Alright, so this is the code. Now first if condition, then there is nested if condition, then there is another nested if condition. First condition says if the number is less than 100, then it will print number is less than 100. If it is equal to 50, then it will print number equal to 50. If it is greater than 40, then it will print the number is greater than 40. So now let's try to run this program. So as we can see, number is less than 100. First it is printing. After that, number equal to 50. Then the number is greater than 40. So as we know, the number is 50. That is why all the three statements are printed. Now let's say if we change this number, like let's say the number is 45. If the number is 45, then number is less than 100 is printed, and this sentence, that is the number is greater than 100, is printed, and not number equal to 50, because to print this number equal to 50 sentence, the number must be equal to 50. Now let's try to run this again. So as you can see, number is less than 100 is only getting printed, because as we can see here, to get inside this if condition, the number must be 50. As the number is not 50 but 45, so it is not getting inside this if condition. So that is why this condition is also not getting checked. So that is why only number is less than 100 is getting printed. So this is an example of nested if expression. Now let's do an example of if else if ladder expression. Let's name it if else 3. Alright, so now here we will do an example of if else if ladder expression, where we will give grades to the student based on their marks. So let's start. Function main. Inside this we'll create a variable, let's say val score, and assign it a value. So this value is the marks of the score, or you can say the score is 76. Now we'll create a variable, whose type is string. Now after that we'll have to assign this grade. So basically we are assigning the value of if else if ladder expression to this variable grade. So this is how we do it. If score variable is greater than equal to 90, that is if the score is greater than 90, then we'll simply print your grade is A+. So yeah, here we'll do it. Grade is A+. Now if a student scores more than 90, then his grade is A+. Now here we'll write else if. So inside the else if there is a condition. We can write the condition inside the else if, as we know. Score is greater than equal to, let's say, 80. Then we'll print your grade is A+. Your grade is A, not A+. Now after that another else if the score is greater than equal to 70, then the grade is, we'll write your grade is B+. Else if the score is greater than 60, similarly write your grade is B. We can do same for all of these. We can just copy paste it. So this one is 60, then let's make here 50 and the grade would be C. C+. Now here would be, let's say, 40. We'll do it 40 and the grade would be C. Now after that 35. Let's make it 35. Your grade is D. Now in else block we'll simply write that is your grade is F. That is if you scored below 35, your grade is F, that is your fail. So you must score more than 35 to pass the exam. Alright, now after that we can print this grade variable. And let's try to run this. So as you can see, your grade is B+. It's getting printed, and I think by mistake there is N in between. Here it is. That is why it is printing N here. So our score was 76, so that is why it is getting printed your grade is B+. So this expression is used when there is a need of multiple conditions. Like in this case, we had the need of multiple expressions, like one condition is score must be greater than 90, then only the score will be A+. Then score must be greater than 70, score must be greater than 60. Similarly, for every statement that is to be printed, there must be a specific condition. And in this type of case, we use if-else-if ladder expression. So these were few examples of if-else expressions.
If getting your learning started is half the battle, what if you could do that for free? Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
are used to repeatedly execute a series of statements until a certain condition is met. Typically, a process is carried out such as retrieving and altering data, and then a condition is verified, such as whether a counter has reached a specified value. If it hasn't, the next instruction in the sequence is a command to go back to the first instruction in the sequence and repeat it. So, until a specified or given condition is true, or the loop is broken with the break statement, a series of statements are going to execute. There are various types of loops in Kotlin, like for loops, for each loop, for loop with ranges, while loop, and do while loop. So let's go ahead and understand these loops. Now we'll start with for loop in Kotlin. A for loop is a conditional iterative statement that checks for a specific condition and then constantly executes a block of code as long as those criteria are met. The for loop differs from other looping statements in that it provides an explicit loop counter that allows the loop's body to know the exact sequence of each iteration. The for loop is used in Kotlin to traverse over ranges, arrays, and maps. As we can see in the diagram, first there is an initial statement, then there is a condition, and if that condition evaluates to be true, then the statement inside the loop body are executed and updated. The updation can be incremental or decremental. Then again, the condition is checked. If it's true, then the same process will get repeated, and if the condition is not satisfied, then the control jumps out of the loop. This complete process will keep on repeating until the condition evaluates to be false. Now, let's understand for loop with the help of an example. So this is our code editor IntelliJ IDEA. Here we will be doing an example of for loop in which we will print the odd and even elements from an array. So here we will use a for loop and if else condition. So let's start. First of all, we'll make the main function main. Inside this function, let's declare an array. Val num is the name of the array and the array of function. Inside this, we'll mention the elements of the array. Let's say 7, 21, then let's say 23. So these are the elements of the array. Now after this, we will simply print a message. Let's say like the odd and even numbers in the list are as follows, and then we will apply the logic. Right, the odd even numbers are as follows. Right, now we'll use for loop. Now inside this for loop, item will be the name of the variable that will store the variables or elements of the num array one by one. So num is the name of the array, and in between there will be in operator. So one by one, each element of the array will be stored in item, and now we'll use if condition. Now we have to print even and odd numbers. The logic is simple. We'll write if item $sign divided by 2. If the remainder is equals to 0, then it means it is an even number. So any even number on when it is divided by 2, it will give 0 as a remainder. So if it will give 0 as the remainder, then we will print even number then here we'll write item. That particular element will be printed. Alright, now in else block we'll do println, and here we will write odd number. Here again we'll write plus item. So alright, I think our code is done and we can run it. Let's try to run this one. So as we can see, even numbers and odd numbers are getting printed. So 16 is an even number, 2 is an even number, odd numbers 11, 17, 28 even number, odd number 39 and even number 10. So I think all the elements are getting covered. Here we go, 7, 21, odd number. So yeah, so this is how you can use for loop, and here we also have used if and else statements. Now let's understand for each loop. The for each method in Kotlin allows you to access elements in a collection or list and perform actions on them. We can achieve the same thing using the for loop, but several for loops would quickly make your code unreadable. As we can see in this example, there is a list named mylist, and like in arrays we use array of function. Similarly, in list we use list of function. The elements of the list are in winter, is and coming. So there are three elements. First is winter, then is, then coming. So to print each element of the list, we will use for each loop. As we can see, here we have used mylist.forEach, that is the for each loop, and then we will print the iterator to print all the elements of the array. Now let's do an example on for each loop to understand it better. So again we are back in our code editor. Here we will be doing an example of for each loop. So this example would be a simple example, function main, and inside this function we will create a list. Let's say where a list, let's name it a list. Okay, so after that we'll use list of function, and also let's mention the data type. Alright, so now inside this list we will mention the elements. Let's say 110 and 265 and let's say 315. So these are random elements. Alright, now we will have to create a variable sum and initialize it with 0. Now using this list a list, that is the name of the list, we will use a for each loop to iterate through each element of the list. We'll use for each, E must be capital, after that right for each, and now we will use this sum variable to do a simple sum of each element of the list. Sum plus here it. So it will be storing each element one by one. It will sum, with the help of sum it will add each element to one another. So initially sum is 0. When 110 is added, then 265 is added to 110, then 315 to added to both of them. So alright, now all we need to do is to print this. We'll write println sum. So here we go. Now I think we can try to run this one. Although it is showing an error, but let's try to run this. So as I thought, I think we have to write the correct way only. So this is the right syntax of for each loop, and yeah, so now let's try to run it. So as you can see, 690 is getting printed. So we have to use for each bracket with for each only, and we can't enter or put space with it. So yeah, so this is the syntax of it. Now let's move on to the next loop, which is for loop with ranges. A range is a set of values that fall within a specified lower and upper limit, and the values can be numbers, characters, or objects. Ranges might be incremental or decremental, but the difference between two values is always 1. As we can see in the example, inside the for loop num in 1 to 8, here dot dot is the operator, it means all the numbers from 1 to 8 range will be printed. Also, we can use a step function to print the elements with a gap. And we also have to mention the gap, like step 2. There are more library functions that build ranges that aren't covered by the double dot operator. For example, down2 creates a range that counts down, while range2 creates a range that advances to a certain value. Now, as we have understood ranges, now let's understand while loop. While loops are used to repeatedly cycle a block of code as long as the specified condition returns true. The condition is verified first, and if it is true, the block's code is run. Every time it enters the block, the condition is checked, and as a result, the code will keep running until the condition is met. Once the loop starts, the condition is checked. If that condition is satisfied, then the set of instructions are executed, and if the conditions are not satisfied, then the control jumps out of the loop. This complete process will keep on repeating and executing unless the condition evaluates to be false. Now let's understand while loop with the help of an example. So now here we will be doing an example of while loop. So here we will use an array and we will create elements of the array like positive and negative. Then using the while loop, we will print the positive numbers and the negative numbers separately. So let's start. First of all, we'll create the main function, and inside this main function we'll create an array. Let's say ARR is the name of the array, and here we are using the array of function. Inside this function we'll write down the elements like 52, any random elements, minus 77, we have to write some negative elements as well, minus 67 let's say, and minus 20. Alright, after that we'll create a variable, let's say I, and assign it 0, initialize it with 0. So here we are initializing it. Now within the while loop we will write I less than ARR dot size, that the array size. So it means this loop will keep on iterating till the size of the array is greater than 0, and when it becomes 0 the loop will break or the control jumps out of the loop. Alright, so as we know I is 0, so that is why I less than array dot size we have used. Now in if condition we'll write ARR of I greater than 0, that is positive number. If the element here, if the element is positive, that is greater than 0, then we'll print positive number. Right, now ARR I, so that is how we will print it. Now here we'll write else block, and inside the else block again we will print negative number ARR of I. Okay, so after that we have to increment I plus plus. Basically we have to make the loop to keep on iterating, so that is why we have used I plus plus for the updation, like to move to the next element. In for loop we don't do the updation part like ourselves, but in while loop we have to do that. Now let's try to run this. So here we go, 52, 10 positive numbers, minus 77 negative, 82 is positive, then there are negative numbers. So here we have used the while loop, and it is easy, pretty much easy. Now let's move to the next loop, which is a do while loop. The do while loop. The while loop and do while loop are quite the same kind of loops. The only difference is that the function is run at least once before the condition is evaluated in the do while loop. The while loop, on the other hand, checks the condition before executing the function. So as we can see in the diagram, the do while loop starts and the set of instructions are executed. After that, the while loop condition is checked. If it is true, then again the set of instructions or statement will execute. So basically, in do while loop, the set of instruction will execute once before checking the condition, and after that it will check for the condition to be true. So we can say the set of instructions will execute once even if the condition is not met. So let's understand do while loop with the help of an example. Here we will do an example of Fibonacci series. So Fibonacci series is the series in which the sum of the previous two elements is equal to the third element. So let's start. First of all, we'll write function main. Now inside this we will create a variable, let's I. This is a counter variable, so we'll start with 1, and now another variable, let's say n. Let's assign it 10. After that we'll create a sum variable and assign it 0. Then where, let's say f1, and make it 0, and where f2, and we'll make it 1. Alright, so we know in Fibonacci sequence first two elements are 0 and 1. Alright, so that is why we have assigned f2 as 1, and we'll print it. Now we have to do this example with the help of do while loop. So first of all we'll write do, and inside this do we'll write I++, that is we are incrementing the counter. Then we'll print f1, because in Fibonacci series the first number is always 0. So we'll write f1. We have assigned f1 as 0, so it will get printed. Now we'll write sum equals f1 plus f2. This is the logic, and after this we'll write f1 equals to f2, that is we are assigning the value of f2 to f1, and f2 equals sum. So here what we are doing is, for each iteration we are assigning second number to the first number and assigning the sum of the last two numbers to the second number. So Fibonacci sequence works that way: 0, 1, 1, that is the sum of the previous two elements, is the third element. Like 0 plus 1 equals to 1, then 1 plus 1 equals to 2, then 2 plus 1 equals to 3. So that is how it goes on. Now after do block we'll use while loop. Inside the while loop we'll put a condition that if I is less than equal to n. As we know the value of I is 1, on increment it becomes 2, and the value of n is 10. So this block will keep on iterating till I becomes equal to 10. And as we know that I is now 2 after this block executes, which is less than 10, so again this block will execute. So it keeps on iterating till I becomes equal to 10. So it will print up to 10, that is 0 to 10 digits of Fibonacci series. Now let's try to run this one. As we can see, these are the Fibonacci series: 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. There are total 10 digits. So as we can see, 0 plus 1 equals to 1, 1 plus 2 equals to 3, then there is 3 plus 5 equals to 8, then there is 8 plus 13 equals to 21, 13 plus 21 equals to 34. So this is our Fibonacci series, and we have done it with the help of do while loop. So these were some examples of loops in Kotlin. You can try some more examples on it. It will help you understand this topic better. Kotlin functions. Functions in Kotlin is very much similar to functions in Java. There are some minor differences in between them. So let's have a look at them. A Kotlin function can be defined as a block of code which is used to hold the data. This block of code has a name and is defined with fun keyword. For example, as we can see, fun is the keyword here and info here is the name of the function. A Kotlin function divides the program into small modules. These functions can easily be invoked by making a call. And to make a call, we use the name of the function with parentheses. As we can see in the example, the function info is getting invoked from the main function. That is, from the main function we are making a call to the info function by using the name of the function with parentheses. Now let's understand function parameters. Parameters can be defined as the information that are passed to the function. So basically, functions can accept the data or information passed to them. These informations and data are passed in the form of parameters. After receiving the data or information, function can easily use this data to calculate or display as per the function definition. The parameters are specified after the name of the function and is mentioned inside parentheses separated by commas. And we can easily pass as much parameters as we want. For example, as you can see, function calc is accepting 3 parameters a, b and c of integer type. These 3 arguments or values are passed from the main function where the function call is made. So a, b and c 3 arguments are passed to the calc function and the function is providing the average of these 3 values. Also, the values that are passed to the functions are called arguments and the parameters are the values that are defined in the function definition. So now let's understand the next topic, which is function returning values. Just like printing the values, functions can also return values. To return a value or values, a return keyword is used. Also, while returning a value, the return type of the function is also specified. As you can see in the example, int is the return type of the function and return keyword is used to return values to the main function where they are getting printed. So now moving on to the functions with no return types. Kotlin function with no return type. In Kotlin language, if the function is not returning anything, then we don't need to specify any return type. But if we want to mention the return type, then we can add unit as the return type. So basically, unit type in Kotlin is like void type in Java. That means it is used with function that doesn't return anything. The next is higher order functions. The higher order function in Kotlin is a function that can accept the functions as a parameter and can also return a function. We have heard that function accept variables, but we haven't heard about function accepting other functions. In higher order function, we can easily do that. So, as we can see in the example of higher order function, the name of the function is high order and it is accepting 2 integer values, that is num1 and num2, and a function whose name is fname. Now, this function fname is accepting 2 integer values and its return type is int. Inside the function body, we are calling fname function and printing it. Let's understand it with the help of an example. So this is our Kotlin playground. Here we'll do an example of higher order function. We'll do a basic example of higher order function. So let's start. First of all, we'll create the main function, function main. And inside this main function, let's name the higher order function as high order. You can name it as per your choice. I have named it high order. And now let's pass the variables. Let's say 50, 80, and let's say 40. Now we have to pass the function to this higher order function. So we can do that with the help of these two colon operators and then the name of the function. Let's say the name of the function is my function. So here we are passing three variables and a function to the higher order function. Now we'll create the higher order function. We'll write fun keyword, then high order, and now inside the parenthesis we'll write num1 int the parameters, that is 50, 80, 40. We have to write the parameters. Similarly num3. Now after that, here we are accepting a function as well. So we'll write the name. Let's say name of the function is func name, and here int and int the type of the values that this function will be accepting. Here also we have to mention the types of the function that this function will be accepting and the return type of the function as well. So int is the return type of this function. We'll have to mention that as well. And by mistake we have done this. We have to use arrow operator for that. And yeah. Now we'll write the print. Basically we'll call the function in which we will define the definition of this function. So let's say the function name was func name, and these three are the parameters num1, num2, and num3. We are passing these arguments. Now let's create this function definition. So we'll create fun keyword my function. Function is accepting num1 of integer type, num2 of integer type, and num3 of integer type. Now after that, the return type of the function is int. Alright. Now let's say we want to do the average of these three numbers. So what we'll do is we'll write return num1 plus num2 plus num3 divided by 3. Alright, so all we need to do is just enclose it within the brackets. Yeah, now let's try to run this. As you can see, 50 plus 40, 90. 90 and 80 is equals to 170. 170 on divided by, when it is divided by 3, it will give you 56.3 something. And as we have used integer value, so it is showing 56 only. So what we are doing here is, first of all, we are calling the high order function. So basically this is a higher order function and we have named it high order, and we are passing three integer values and one function. So these three integer values are passing over here, these are the parameters, and this is how we accept function as a parameter. This is the syntax of it. After that, we are here calling the definition of this function. So this is the definition, we are calling this function, and this is the definition of this function. The value is calculated over here and then is returned here, and then here it is getting printed. So the answer or the output of this program is 56, as we can see. So this is a higher order function. Now let's understand lambda function. Lambda function. Lambda is an abbreviated form of function writing. The lambda function is written without a name and is enclosed in curly brackets. The lambda function has the basic syntax. Arguments or variables are mentioned on the left hand side of the arrow operator, and the body of the function is present on the right hand side of the arrow operator. In the example, avg is the lambda variable, n1, n2 and n3 on the left side of the arrow operator are the parameters, and on the right side is the function body, that is the average of 3 parameters. So as we have understood the lambda functions and the higher order function as well, now let's understand how to use higher order function with lambda function. So lambda function allows us to eliminate the code and write the code more compactly. As we can see in this example, we have used the lambda function instead of the normal function, which has decreased the lines of code. Now let's understand this with the help of an example. So this is our example of higher order function that we have done previously. Now we will do this example or edit this example with lambda function. So now we'll understand how to use higher order function and lambda function together, and it will make our code shorter and more compact. So as we can see, here we have used two colon operators with the name of the function. Now all we need to do is to create a lambda function over here, and for that, as we know that there is no name for a lambda function, the lambda function is enclosed in two brackets. Now let's say num1 int, this is the parameters or the variables that is on the left hand side of the arrow operator. Then num2, num3, after that here we can see here we have used the arrow operator. Now we have moved to the right hand side of the arrow operator, which is the function body. Now we'll use the parenthesis num1 plus num2 plus num3. So basically this is the function body or the function definition, we can say. So now here we are doing the average of these three numbers as we have done previously in the higher order function. Now here we don't have to use this function, we can just eliminate this one. Now as we can see, our function is almost done, and let's try to run this program. As we can see, the output is 56. So here we have used the lambda function. So this part, which is the left hand side part of the arrow operator, this is the variables or the values, and this part on the right hand side is the function body. So the lambda function is enclosed in two brackets, as we can see. Here we have passed the three variables, and this is the lambda function. Also, we have eliminated the my function function, because in that particular function we are just defining or doing the calculation, and that we have already done in this part. So we no longer need that function. So as we can see, here we are using higher order function with lambda function.
So first is, what is Kotlin Multi-Platform? The Kotlin Multi-Platform is a feature released in 2017 with Kotlin 1.2 version. This feature allows us to write the same code on multiple platforms directly. It focuses on cross-platform app development. It is based on the idea of write once, run anywhere approach. But it takes the concept of write once, run anywhere to a much higher level, in which we can write the code once and target multiple platforms. The Kotlin Multi-Platform allows you to include other platforms like Linux, Windows, and the web, while its subset,
that is Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile, allows the developer to write business logic code for iOS and Android from a single code base. Now, as we have understood what is Kotlin Multi-Platform, now let's understand how Kotlin Multi-Platform works. So let's take Android and iOS. The shared business logic code for Android gets converted to Java bytecode that can be executed in JVM. And Android has the virtual machine, so it can easily run it. But in case of iOS, there is no virtual machine. So the code is converted to the native code that can be executed on iOS. Now in Kotlin compiler, there is a front end which converts the code into intermediate representation known as IR. And the backend converts that intermediate representation to machine executable code. So in case of Android, it converts it into Java bytecode, and for iOS, it converts it into iOS native machine code. So as we have understood how Kotlin multi-platform works, now let's understand common Kotlin code. To make common Kotlin code run, Kotlin provides platform-specific compilers. To convert the code according to different platforms, it provides different compilers. These platform-specific versions include Kotlin/JVM, Kotlin/JavaScript, and Kotlin/native. These versions contain the platform-specific tools and libraries and also the extension to Kotlin language. Each platform-specific version includes various platforms. For example, JVM includes Java 8, Java 6, and Android. Then the JavaScript includes browser and Node. The native includes iOS, Mac, Windows, Linux, etc. Multi-platform libraries helps in developing shared parts of the project at one area by providing APIs for common Kotlin code and later share it with all of the target platforms. The versions of platform-specific libraries provide the libraries that can be used to increase the platform-specific capabilities of the platforms that are targeted. Now, let's understand the benefits of Kotlin multi-programming. So let's start with the first one, which is quick and clean code. In Kotlin multi-platform, we don't have to recreate and rewrite the code for different platforms. We can simply share the common code between platforms, which saves a huge amount of time. Features like interoperability makes things very easy and quick as well. Also, there is no lagging behind the native platforms, and because of that, the developers don't have to wait until the new features are added for the support. Next is fast development. So as we have already discussed, that code sharing saves a lot of time and helps in making the development process much faster and easier. Its features including null safety, IDE support, and interoperability with Java makes it less complex and fast. Next is one language for cross-platform and native apps. Most cross-platform app development tools don't allow you to use the capabilities of native to iOS and Android devices. In Kotlin, we don't need to introduce any new programming language to the code base. It is easy to make our Android app work on iOS devices without changing much in code. The major advantage of using Kotlin multi-platform is that we can write the code once and use it on both mobile platforms that are Android and iOS. Next is support and community. Kotlin is pretty famous in many companies and organizations. Also, after Google's statement of Kotlin as an official language for Android, many companies are opting this language and a huge amount of users started working on this language, which means there is a huge community support for the Kotlin language. The developers who are already familiar with Java can easily switch to Kotlin as it is fully interoperable with it and easy to learn. So the Java community also adds up to the Kotlin's community. Now let's have a look at some applications that are built using Kotlin Multi-Platform. These includes Netflix, Autodesk, Vmware, Trello, Philips, IceRock. So let's start with Netflix. Netflix, the popular OTT platform, has rebuilt the current user interface player in the Netflix Android application using Kotlin. Next is Autodesk. Autodesk is a multinational software corporation. Kotlin works well with iOS and Android without any Java native interface, which is a major reason for the company to opt Kotlin Multi-Platform. Next is VMware. VMware is an American cloud computing and virtualization technology company. The VMware development team wanted a cross-platform strategy for mobile applications. Then the Kotlin Multi-Platform was selected. And now it is the default go-to framework of choice for VMware. Next is Trello. Trello is a project management application. The Android application of Trello is built using Kotlin. Trello uses Kotlin because of its interoperability with Java. Next is Philips. Philips is a popular multinational corporation and we all have heard about this company. In Philips, Kotlin Multi-Platform proved to be a faster at implementing the new features and also to get more interaction in the team between Android and iOS developers. The last one is IceRock. IceRock is an outsourced company that provides mobile and backend solutions for various industries and market segments. It uses Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile to create applications for its clients. Apart from these, there are some more applications and companies that have opted the Kotlin Multi-Platform.
What are threads? To understand coroutines in detail, first we will have to understand the threads. So let's understand it a little. So the programs are just a set of instructions. When a program runs, a process is created, which contains memory, process ID, etc. In that process, there are threads that are used to execute information. Every process has at least one thread or more than one thread. Threads help with the high performance applications and they work in a sequential order, one after the other. Whenever a thread gets stuck while running an instruction, then the other thread executes the rest of the instructions. So these were threads. Now, as we have understood about threads, so let's learn about coroutines. Coroutines stands for cooperating functions. The word co stands for cooperation and routine stands for functions. The coroutines can not only do all the things that a thread can, but is also very efficient. Coroutines are lightweight threads that help to write simplified asynchronous code that keeps the application responsive while maintaining heavy tasks like network calls. Coroutines are executed inside the thread and are also suspendable. Here, the word suspendable means we can execute some instructions and then stop the coroutine in between the execution and continue when we wish to. And they can also switch between the threads, which gives coroutines an edge over threads. So as we have understood about coroutines, so now let's learn about some features of coroutine. So these are the features of Kotlin coroutines. First one is coroutines are lightweight. Due to the support for the suspension, we can run many coroutines on a single thread, which doesn't block the thread where the coroutine is running. Coroutine has a collection of threads that can be used when required. When the task is done, the thread is kept back to the collection and reused when need. So this was the first feature. Now moving on to the second feature, which is less memory leaks. There are very less memory leaks in Kotlin because of the structured concurrency. The Kotlin coroutines follow the structured concurrency. This structured concurrency means the new coroutine can only be launched in a particular coroutine scope, which sets the lifetime of the coroutine. During the implementation, a large number of coroutines are launched, and the structured concurrency take care of those so that they are not lost or leaked. This was the second feature. Next is built-in cancellation support. Cancellation in coroutine is interactive. In order to be cancelable, a coroutine must be cooperative. But if it is not cooperative, then it will wait for the coroutine to finish. There are two ways to make a coroutine cancelable. One, through using suspending functions through Kotlin.coroutines like delay function, yield function, etc. These were cancelable. And second, using coroutine scope.isActive boolean flag. There can be many reasons to cancel a coroutine, and also a coroutine cannot be cancelled if it is working in computation. Now moving on to the last feature, that is Jetpack integration. There are many libraries of Jetpack that provide support for coroutines. For example, Android KTX is a set of Kotlin extensions that provide Android platform and other APIs, etc. The Jetpack is basically a collection of Android development components that helps in building Android apps and making complex things simple and easy. These were some features of coroutine. Now let's understand an example of coroutine. But before that, we have to understand some terms of coroutines, which are launch, delay, and run blocking. First is launch. Now launch is a coroutine builder. It launches a new coroutine concurrently, that is, without blocking the current thread. It is automatically cancelled when the resulting job is cancelled, and it doesn't return any result. Now next is delay. Delay is a suspending function, which is used to suspend a function for a particular time and resumes it after that time. It doesn't really block the underlying thread, but allows the other coroutines to run and use the underlying thread. Also, it is a cancelable function. Then there is run blocking. Run blocking is a coroutine builder again. It basically runs a new coroutine and blocks the current thread until its completion. Or, in other words, the thread that runs in it gets blocked for the given duration until all the code blocks inside the brackets of run block complete their execution. Now, as we can see in this example, here the run blocking refers to the thread that runs it, that is the main thread. It is the scope of the coroutine. Launch. Here launch will launch a new coroutine concurrently. Then there is delay. Delay will suspend the coroutine for a selected time. Here that selected time is 2 seconds. By default the time is in milliseconds. Now here the word Sam will be printed after my name is because of the time delay for 2 seconds. On printing it, it will display my name is Sam.
Let's take this example on Kotlin Playground. Here it is. Here we have written that example. Here we can see there is a delay of 2000 L, that is 2000 millisecond, which is equal to 2 seconds. So that is why my name is printed earlier than Sam is getting printed. Let's run it and let's check the output. As you can see, my name is Sam is getting printed because we have delayed this Sam for like 2 seconds, and now we'll use delay here. Delay, let's say 3 seconds, 3000 milliseconds, which is equal to 3 seconds. So as you can see, there's a delay of 2 seconds. Here is the delay of 3 seconds. Now what will happen is Sam will print first. After that, my name is printed. As you can see, Sam, my name is. So I want to show you that how this delay function work. Because here the delay is now 3 seconds, which is greater than 2 seconds. That is why my name is getting printed later. Now moving on to the next topic, which is basics of coroutine. So first is scope builder. The coroutine scope is used to declare your own scope. Unlike run blocking, it just suspends and releases the threads underlying. It is used to set the scope for new coroutines. Coroutine scope is responsible for controlling the lifecycle of a group of coroutines and their context. Scopes wait for their associated coroutines to complete before completing themselves. The coroutine builder is an extension of coroutine scope. Now next is explicit job. A job object is returned by launch coroutine builder, whose task is to explicitly wait for the child coroutine completion. Jobs acts as a handle to the coroutine in the queue. For every coroutine that is created, it returns a job instance which identifies the coroutine uniquely and manages its lifecycle. Then there is suspending functions. Suspending functions are those functions that can be paused and then continued later. They can be used inside the coroutines and can use other suspending functions as well. They are used for long-running operations and wait for it to complete without blocking. The syntax of suspending function is same as that of the normal function, but with the addition of suspended keyword. So these were some basics of coroutine. So what is Kotlin Jetpack Compose? The Jetpack Compose is a modern user interface development toolkit. It makes the app development process easy and speeds it up. Because of the Jetpack Compose, you can write less code as compared to the current view building approach, which also leads to less potential bugs. It's changed the way developers create user interface, making it easier and faster to write and more performant to run. Before the Jetpack Compose, XML layouts were used to make native user interface. The Jetpack Compose is much better, advanced, and easier than XML. With the help of Jetpack Compose, we can make a more declarative user interface with less code. So, as we have understood the Kotlin Jetpack Compose, so now let's have a look at why we need or use the Jetpack Compose. So why Jetpack Compose? The Jetpack Compose is used because it has huge benefits over the previous user interface building system. First, it accelerates the development. There are various features in Compose that helps in doing the task faster. For example, previews. By making multiple previews, we can save a lot of time that we earlier wasted in checking the user interface component in different states. But with the help of multiple previews, we can easily do that. Also, the Compose is compatible with existing code. Many libraries like Kotlin coroutines, Vmodel, etc. work just fine with Compose. Second is independent. The library of Compose is not integrated with any operating system, which means it is easy to add the new features to the user interface without changing the operating system. Now next is intuitive. In Compose, the APIs that are used is intuitive and declarative. Intuitive means easy to understand, and declarative means all we need to do is to describe the user interface, and the rest will be taken care of by Compose. The components that are made with the Compose are not confined to a specific activity, which makes the component easy to reuse. Fourth is powerful and feature loaded. Compose is a powerful and feature loaded that helps in making the app attractive and user friendly. You can make the app as you desired with these animations, which are quite easy to implement. Compose has the support for dark theme, material design, animations, etc., which makes things very easy for the development. Now, how does Compose work? The word compose came from composite, which means the collection of objects. The Compose Jetpack works on a composite design pattern. This pattern is used while dealing with hierarchical data, like parent-child relationship. So in Compose, every view can contain one or more child views within it, and the child views can further have sub-child views, unlike previous approaches where we cannot introduce additional functionalities in a view. Now, as we have understood about this topic, now we will move on to the next topic, which is composable function. A composable function is just like any other normal function of Kotlin, but the only difference is it is annotated by the composable sign. It helps in transforming the data to the user interface hierarchy. All the functions with composable sign indicate that this function is the compose function, and the sign tells the compose compiler that this function is intended to convert data into user interface, and they can only be called from other composable functions. The composable function doesn't return any values like the Kotlin function, but instead emit user interface elements to the Compose runtime system for rendering. As we can see in this example, composable annotation is used to make the function message a composable function. The element text is also a composable function which comes from Compose library. With the preview annotation, as we can see, we are able to see how our UI, that is user interface, is going to look like. The preview are often written with composable annotation, and multiple previews can be added to the composable function having different parameters. Now, the output of this example would be hello Rahul. So now moving on to the next topic, which is layout. So layout allows us to arrange the components in such a way so that they don't overlap each other. It basically arranges the components in a proper manner, otherwise they got stacked over each other. It is one of the most important components that helps in creating user interface. It helps in alignment and arrangement purposes for the user interface. Layout is a compose function which allows us to arrange elements in a row, column, and box. So let's understand. Here we can see in this example, there is a row keyword, which means these three words, hello, there, mate, that are written inside the row function will be arranged horizontally. The row function allows us to arrange the elements in a horizontal manner. So hello, there, and mate will be arranged horizontally. Similarly, the column function lets you arrange the elements in a vertical manner. So in this case, that is in the case of column function, hello, there, mate will be arranged vertically. So this was the example of layout. Now moving on to the next topic, which is box. In box layout, the children are stacked over each other by default. So we have to align them to put them in different positions or proper positions. We use the align modifier to set the position or alignment for children elements. As we can see in this example, we have used align modifier, and we can also see there is alignment dot top center and alignment.bottom center. These are the alignment options that are applied to the child user interface. There are total 9 alignment options. Let's have a look at them. First 3 are alignment.top_start, alignment.top_end, alignment.top_center. Here, alignment.top_start will align the user interface to the top left corner. Top_end will align at the top right corner, and top_center will align at top center position. Next 3 are alignment.center_start, alignment.center_end, and alignment.center. Here, center start will align the user interface to the mid left corner, center end will align at mid right corner, and center will be aligned at the mid center position in between center start and center end. Next 3 are alignment.bottom_start, alignment.bottom_end, and alignment.bottom_center. Here, bottom start will align the user interface to the bottom left corner, bottom end will align at the bottom right corner, and bottom center will be aligned at the bottom center position, that is in between bottom start and bottom end. So these were the 9 possible alignments. Now coming to material design. As the name suggests, it helps to improve the appearance using the material design styling. There are 3 pillars of material design, which are color, typography, shape. First is color. By using values from wrapped theme, you can easily color wherever it is needed. Inside the Compose graphic package, there is a color class which is used by Jetpack Compose. To define material design, color system color class is used. There are 13 attributes that can be used, and those are primary, primary variant, secondary, secondary variant, background surface, error, on primary, on secondary, on background, on surface, on error, and is light. Each of them having different means and is used to color wherever it is needed. Then there is typography. In the material theme, there are material typography styles which are used to style or define a type system. With the help of typograph class, we can customize font style, font weight, font family, letter spacing, text decoration, and many more attributes. Third is shape. Material design allows us to define shape for small, medium, and large components as well. Just like typography, we can easily create shapes. Now, coming to next topic, which is list and animations. The list and animations are one of the most important thing for building an app. We have already discussed row and column earlier. Here, we will discuss about lazy composibles. Lazy composibles include lazy row and lazy column. The lazy row makes a horizontal scrolling list, and the lazy column makes the vertical scrolling list. In this example, lazy column is used. As we can see, here lazy columns is used. That is vertical scrolling list. And this is how we add elements or items. Here we are adding a single item, and here we are adding multiple items. With items, there is an integer 7, which means 7 items can be added. Now, just like list, animations are also very important for a smooth and attractive user experience. There are various APIs that can give you control and help with the animation. They are animation visibility. It is used if you are animating appearance and disappearance. Then there is animation. It is used if you want to have fine control over animation time. Then there is crossfade. It is used to switch between composibles with a crossfade animation. Then there is remember infinite transition. If the animation is state-based and happens during composition and is infinite, then this is used. Next is update transition. It is used if you are animating multiple values simultaneously. So these were some APIs that can give you control over the animations.
And with that, we have come to the end of this video. I hope it helped you all in understanding the concepts of Kotlin. Thank you so much for being here. Stay safe and keep learning.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.